Hi, I'm Melike, and this is my final printed monothematic publication for assignment 2. I'm just going to quickly address the size. As you can see, my publication isn't the correct A4 size. Due to travel and time constraints, I had to print it out at home, but I still wanted to have it bound rather than just stapled together, which would affect the final format. However, the final version is designed at A4 with bleed and margin set up for professional printing at that size. My chosen topic is design activism, and my publication is titled Designing for the Margins in Africa and South America. This publication is for readers that are interested in design for social good, so the audience would be design students, emerging designers, or creative professionals, people that want to see how design can contribute to social change. It also focuses on design projects in these communities that respects and reflects local knowledge and culture instead of just imposing more typical Western solutions. The goal was to use Fat as an inspiration and see how these designers set their own agenda for change. As you can see in my contents page, I divided the publication into 5 sections. The first provides an introduction to design activism, while the final reflects on how the featured case studies have contributed to it. The 3 middle sections here present each of the case studies I have chosen. In my first chapter spread, I wanted a layout system that was flexible but familiar in terms of visual consistency. Each chapter spread features a pull quote, a chapter number, and a title. These elements shift and rotate position throughout the publication to give it a sense of rhythm, but still keep continuity from spread to spread, while still aligning to the consistent typographic grid that I have used. In my first case study spread, one of my key design intentions was to use typography to essentially give a voice to the people in these communities, because my focus was on marginalized areas. Because of that, the pull quote is the main visual feature for most pages. The images are edited in muted tones to ensure that the focus remains on the words being spoken by the community people themselves. I've paid close attention to typesettings and have used consistent tracking, kerning, and spacing in both the body and heading texts throughout. On this spread, you can see my grid system in action. The pull quote remains dominant while the body text is structured tightly within the margins. My grid is slightly offset from the top to give each page space to breathe. My typesetting featured 3 styles for the headings, one for the larger pull quotes that you can see here, one for the smaller ones, and one slightly larger one for each of the chapter spreads, with changes in weight and size over the pages. Throughout the publication, I also highlighted keywords in certain quotes, using a different color to draw attention to important themes. For example, in this spread for the Colombian architectural organization Organismo, I emphasized the words "the love of the earth." Now, the main goal of this organization was basically to use the earth and natural materials around them in anything that they create. Most of the people working with this organization are just locals who care deeply enough about their environment to want to care and work for it with it in this way. My final chapter spread now poses the question, how do we define design in activism? I referenced Thorpe's design activism criteria here to help the readers see how each project has met her criteria in order to achieve change in their communities. In my final spread, I referenced Fouad Luke, who is the main inspiration and source of information for this publication. As such, I've titled my final spread Towards That Beautiful Strangeness, a play on words from his popular publication Beautiful Strangeness for a Sustainable World, which was referenced in the opening design activism spread. I wanted to show how each study in this publication did exactly that, using design as a solution by challenging what the norm is and creating positive change using a culturally influenced solution. In terms of production, my publication is intended to be printed at A4. This is the size I did use for my test prints initially. I felt that design activism is a more serious topic, and so a practical and common size felt more ideal than something a little bit smaller that might not match the serious tone of the publication or fit the information needed as freely without overcrowding each of the pages. A4 felt appropriate and balanced for this subject, and it also allows for an efficient use of the sheet layout in professional printing to reduce off-cut waste. In terms of paper stock, unlike what I've got here, I would choose an uncoated paper stock to give it a more natural, tactile feel that would reflect the handmade and grounded nature of the projects I've explored. A vellum paper would be ideal, something that's thick enough to have some weight to it, but still thin enough to fold and staple as needed, probably 150 to 250 GSM. Looking back, I'm happy with the structure and clarity of my publication, but I do wish I had explored colour more deeply. I originally chose a single colour approach to keep it solid and grounded, but I think introducing a second accent colour or even a colour for each of the case studies would have added a bit more energy and distinction to each chapter. Despite the travel and the timing, I am proud with the overall outcome and the message behind it. Thank you so much for listening.